بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد المبعوث رحمة للعالمين وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Welcome back. This is the third session of the Essentials of Islam, Risala Jami'ah, by Imam Ahmed bin Zayn al-Habashi. May Allah be pleased with him and benefit us by him and by his knowledge. We were just at the end of the introduction to this book. He mentions that what I'm going to mention in this book is mostly taken from and abridged from the works of Hujjat al-Islam Imam al-Ghazali. And Imam al-Ghazali is a great figure in our history, one of the great renewers of Islam and Mujaddid, and he contributed so much to our tradition. And the scholars of Hadramaut, amongst many others, had a deep love for his books and deep love for his teachings, and they really tried to use his texts as guides and as things that they live by. So Imam Ghazali contributed in all of these sciences. He was such has such a vast reach. He contributed in many sciences, but especially in the three sciences that we're going to talk about in this book. He had works in Aqidah, he had works in the tenets of faith, and he defended the beliefs of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. He had works of fiqh, where he was a mujtahid in terms of the legal side of things, and then he also went deep into the spiritual side. So Imam Ahmed bin Zayn al-Habashi is saying a lot of what we're taking is really from what Imam al-Ghazali is saying. We're just putting it in a very simple, accessible format. Imam al-Ghazali was Hujjat al-Islam, and that's no other Sunni scholar is given that title of being the proof of Islam. His works were so decisive and so clear and so important that he was given that title of being the Hujjah, as being a proof, in that he defended the teachings of the Ahl Sunnah, and he brought the things together. He brought the kind of rational and he brought the rational side and the revelation, so to speak, together, and he brought the spiritual and the legal side together. He brought the philosophical side, of Islam. He brought it all together in his teachings and in his books. And he defended Islam from different tendencies. He kept Islam in the middle, so to speak, and kept this beautiful balance. So he is Hujjat al-Islam. May Allah have mercy upon him, benefit us by him. And he wrote a range of different works. He wrote a very simple creed, works of creed. Then he went deeper and discussed the minutiae of theology. He wrote he wrote fiqh works and different levels of detail. And he also wrote, in terms of the spiritual path and the practical path, he wrote his great work Ihya Ulumuddin, which is in reality 40 books altogether. It covers all aspects of the deen, and inwardly and outwardly. But he also wrote books like Ayyuhal Walad, like My Dear Son, and he wrote, which is just a very simple advice, but very deep, obviously. And he also wrote Bidayat al-Hidayah, the beginning of guidance, which inshallah you also study on as part of this program. If not here, somewhere else. But then, so he mentions that I'm taking what I'm going to tell you in this book is mostly taken from the works of Imam Ghazali. And then he makes a dua. He finishes his introduction with a very important dua, a prayer. And when we read the books of the early scholars, they often make prayers. May Allah guide you, may Allah give you tawfiq. And those prayers, they weren't just written for at that time. They remain. They're not just written for the person he was with at that time. They remain. Years and decades and centuries may pass, and those du'as are still there. So when we read them, we hope that they're answered to us. But he says very, very beautifully that I hope that the person who knows what's in this book and then acts upon it, our hope is that Allah will make them from the people of knowledge, inwardly and outwardly. Okay. So the one who knows, understands, and then acts upon what's in this book, and our hope is from Allah is that person will be regarded as being from the people of knowledge, inwardly and outwardly, from the people of knowledge. من أهل العلم ظاهرا وباطنا وبالله توفيق. And then he reminds us that tawfiq is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that success and enabling grace and the ability to do anything good is not from ourselves, but it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's divinely given. So any good that we have is any ability that we have to do good, or any worship that we do, any knowledge that we attain, it's all from Allah's tawfiq. وَمَا تَوْفِيقِي إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. As we're reminded in the Quran, in only one place is tawfiq mentioned in this meaning, which is that my success is only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My success, my ability, my good, all the good is only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So to proceed, and also just to remind ourselves also that it's been narrated that the one who sometimes it's narrated as a hadith, sometimes narrated as one of the statements of the early Salaf, but in any case the meaning is important, that the one who acts upon what they know, Allah will then bless them with knowledge that they didn't previously possess. So whatever knowledge you have, even if it's very simple, and what's in this book is very simple, but if you act upon it and you implement it, then Allah will bless you with another level of knowledge, another kind of knowledge. And that's what we find in our history, is that people just understanding the quote unquote basics in a profound way and acting upon it, they will be true people. Allah will give them another kind of knowledge, and then there will be true people. There will be truly be people of knowledge. And it's narrated that a man came to the Prophet ﷺ, new to Islam, and the Prophet told someone to recite. He said, "Teach me about." "Teach me Islam. Teach me about Islam." And the Prophet ﷺ told someone to recite to him Surah Al-Zalzala. Surah Al-Zalzala, one of the short surahs that many of us know from the end of the Quran, which tells us about the Yawm al-Qiyamah. إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا. And it tells us what's going to happen, this immense upheaval that takes place on the Day of Judgment, and the earth pulls out its secrets, and people are in this distress and what's going on. And then it ends with فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. The one who does an atom's weight of good will see it, and the one who sees it does an atom's weight of evil will also see the result of that. And the man said, "That's enough for me. That's enough for me." And the Prophet said, "This man has understood. This man has got understanding. If he really internalizes what this is saying, of this very simple but powerful and stark message, is that the day will come, everything will be exposed, everything will be revealed, and all these things will happen, and the results of actions will be seen. If you understand that, you've understood everything." And the Prophet says, "And the one who Allah wants good for, that He gives them understanding of the deen." So if Allah wants good for you, Allah gives you that tawfiq, and gives you that blessing, gives you understanding, gives you that ability. It's a sign that Allah wants good for you. So we move into the text itself, and he begins with mentioning the 5 pillars. And it's good at this point to remind ourselves of the hadith of Jibreel alayhi salam. I'm sure many of you know the hadith in which the man comes beautifully dressed in white with very black hair, no signs of traveling or journeying on him, and he comes and sits right up to the Prophet ﷺ, putting his knees against his, and then asks him about Islam. And we all know the 5 pillars of Islam, which he mentions here. Of course, we all know the Shahada, the testimony, the 2 testimonies of faith, that there's no God except one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, establishing the prayer, giving the zakah, fasting Ramadan, and making Hajj for those who are able. And of course he says, "Sadaqt," and you've told the truth, and the companions are like surprised. And then he asks him about, tell me about Iman, and the Prophet ﷺ mentions the 6 pillars of Iman: to believe in Allah, and tu'minu billahi wa malaikatihi, to believe in Allah and His angels and His books, His scripture, His messengers, and the final day, and the Day of Judgment, and to believe in the divine decree, predestination. And he says, "You told the truth." And he asks him about Ihsan, and he says, "Ihsan is to worship Allah as if you see Him, and if you don't see Him, then know that He sees you." So those are the 3 well-known dimensions of the faith. He then asks him also about the signs of the end of time. But those are the 3 dimensions that we need to know: Islam and Iman and Ihsan. And this book actually begins with Iman, and then it goes to Islam, and then it goes to Ihsan. So it begins with setting our faith correct, and that's very important. It relates to this beginning with the Shahadatain. Really, all our faith and all our belief comes under the two shahadas, shahadu la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadur Rasul. Everything comes under that and can be explained from that. So the one who doesn't, he mentions here, the one who doesn't, the one who confirms these مع الإخلاص والتصديق, the one who confirms these and affirms these with is a believer as long as they have sincerity. If they're not sincere, then they have what's called nifaq or hypocrisy, and if they don't believe in it, then they are obviously disbelievers. So he's just making it clear. And so this, we'll start with this science or we'll start with this creed, this concept of creed. When we study creed, we generally study three elements of it, three parts of it. The first is the ilahiyat, which deals with what relates to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His oneness, His attributes, what we can know about Him in a rational sense, and what we affirm about Him, and what we negate about Him. That's really the essence of and that's really the biggest part of this science. Everything else takes a much smaller place, but essentially theology, or essentially deals with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His attributes, His what we can affirm about Him, and so on. And the second is about prophethood, what we believe about the Prophet and the other prophets, what we can say about them, what we negate about them. And the final level is the belief in unseen things. Part of that is eschatology, what happens at the end of time, what happens on Day of Judgment, what happens in the next life. All these unseen things that we're told about, we're informed about in the Quran and the Sunnah, but what we don't see that we can't see the scales on the Day of Judgment, for example. We can't see the fall of the Prophet ﷺ, but we believe in those things because we've been informed about them, and that's part of our faith. And the Quran begins in that way. Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ كِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. This is a book in which there's no doubt, guidance for the people of taqwa, those who believe. And the first quality Allah mentions is the people that believe in the unseen. They believe in the unseen. Al-Ghayb, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ghayb, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is unseen to us. That's the first part of our faith. But all the other elements, all the other unseen things that we believe in, that's part of our faith and part of what we affirm. So that's how we approach the study of Iman, inshallah. And in the next session we'll go into that now, and read this very short creed that he opens the book with. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our faith firm and make us people of Iman and people of Ihsan and people of Irfan, people of knowledge of Allah, and people of Iqan, people of certainty. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.